we put this video together to show you around the underground portion of this den that we call the Magic Tree Den. And here, this is Mama Fox arriving with the first of four little pups that she's moving in there. She's kind of jammed that pup into a hollow log that's the entrance to the Magic Tree underground den. And here's a daytime shot just to kind of give you the lay of the land here. And she's arriving back in the early afternoon, and she'll kind of poke her head over nearby there, and she gives some kind of call to them. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but she gives a little squeak or something, and it calls the babies out, and they'll come out and greet her and play and nurse out here some and whatnot. But we're going to focus on the underground parts of this here. So moving into that hollow log here to sort of give you some perspective. Here's a couple of pups, one of them laying in there, and you can see in the next little segment that they can run up and down through this hollow log and get out to the outdoors there. So it's just about a perfect fit for a little pup. It's not a real perfect fit for the adults or for raccoons or for the bigger animals. But for little pups here, they love it. And interestingly, we found that they like to sleep in it. Because there's a much bigger area that's after you get on into the den that's a lot bigger, roomier and whatnot, and yet they chose here of their own accord to sleep on top of each other, just piled in, and they play there on top of each other, and you know, to where they're sort of on and off playing and sleeping and eating and whatnot. You know, so it was a bit of a surprise to us. They were only here in this den for 24 hours. So they move in, they're like 4 to 5 weeks old, something like that probably. We don't know, because this is the first time we'd seen these pups, is when she carried that first one in that first video segment there. And so like a month old or whatever, and they're still a little bit clumsy, and you know, obviously you can see it's still very cute at this age. And love to play. Everything's about playing and piling on and being, you know, cozy with everybody else. But then they'll move into the bigger part of the underground den here, into the bigger room, and we can see that in the bigger room they actually get to where they can run around and wrestle more, and Mama actually comes in and lays down with them a little bit, and here, you know, she is really tolerant in terms of letting them, you know, use her as a jungle gym and as a chew toy, and you know, and whatnot. You know, we've often wondered, before really seeing the pups, you know, getting a chance to see them, we had wondered, why do the foxes have such mangled ears? And and here's a little bird that the parents had brought in for them, and you know, to eat and whatnot. And we've also wondered, not only their ears are mangled, but their tails. Some are just really ragged, humpy, bumpy, twisted, broken-looking tails. And once you get to see the pups playing, you can see why they have humpy, lumpy tails here, because they really get going and hanging on. And it's like that guy is going to hang on and twist that tail like it's a snake he's trying to kill. And you could see how somebody may get hurt along the way there. And they do the same thing with each other's ears. They're just, you know, chew toys attached to puppy heads, basically. And they'll go after the ears and, you know, slashing at them with claws and biting on them and dragging somebody around the den by their ear and whatnot. Yeah, so it's pretty easy to see how they come up with the nicks and cuts and tears in their ears. And it actually has, we've sort of taken advantage of those nicks, and it's the manner in which we identify the individual foxes, as we take careful notes and photographs of the ears, because once they have a nick, it'll always be there. You know, they may add more, you know, as they grow and get into fights, you know, real fights out in the real world. either with other foxes, which happens frequently. They fight for territory. It may happen with coyotes or whatever, but it's probably mainly territorial fox fighting. But in here you can see they're in there practicing their fighting skills, getting trained up to be big kids at some point and go out and learn to do their own thing with hunting and making do for themselves. They stay with the parents for maybe 6 months, something like that. We see them tagging along with parents, and when they get bored here in the den, they tear up the cameras for fun. So don't put a good camera in that you like. Here's Mama. She's nursing. You see that she's standing up nursing, and we've observed that that's quite common among the foxes. That it's almost the rule. Is that's the preferred way of nursing, and Mom will kind of drag them around around the den, or if they're outdoors, drag them around on the rocks and whatnot, while they just hang on. And it doesn't look very comfortable for anybody involved, but it's the way they do it. And just occasionally we'll see the mother fox lay down with them and let the pups nurse on her while she's laying down and snoozing or whatever. But 95% of the time she stands like this for them to nurse. Here there's only 2 or 3 of the 4 that are nursing, and now in this picture I think that all 4 are getting an opportunity to get their fill. And after that, they here's a couple who are basically kind of falling asleep in place, and eventually a third one will come in and kind of get on top and find that it doesn't work the same way here in the open space of the den that it does out in the log. So here's these 2 are kind of snuggled up. They're going to go to sleep here, and here comes number 3, who finds that if you're not inside the hollow log, you can't just use these other guys as a pillow, because it simply doesn't work out that way.